For Princess Twilight Sparkle, the current life as an alicorn wasn't anything different from her former times as a unicorn. As far as she was concerned, becoming an alicorn and having a tiara didn't change who she was, nor did it have a negative impact on her life in Ponyville. Those who knew her well believed that the new princess didn't let her new title change her. The Princess of Friendship had made many friends along the way, but as a young mare, it was quite normal for her to start looking for potential stallions. She had met two already. The only problem was, they were the same guy, and they were also from two different worlds. For Flash Centry, a rookie guard at the Crystal Empire, his position meant he was obligated to serve and protect his prince and princess. His fellow guards and citizens of the Empire had crystallized bodies due to the magic of the Crystal Heart. He, along with the prince and princess, did not have this happen to them. He didn't mind, however. Being one of three ponies that were unique to the homeland gave him a sense of pride. Not too long ago, he had the privilege to literally bump into the little sister of Prince Shining Armor, Princess Twilight. His first impression of her was that she came off as a bit clumsy. The last time he saw her was when she came to visit the Empire with her friends to once again prep for the Equestrian Games. Whenever he caught a glimpse of her, she was always staring in his direction. Her head was obviously in the clouds, and seemed to have trouble concentrating on the task at hoof. She was an odd one, that's for sure. By the time winter came around, the weather turned to freezing temperatures, and blizzards happened once every week. Despite having weather that would have anyone living outside the Empire cringe, there was one thing to look forward to. The Empire's crystals were at long last ready to once again put on a magnificent display. The Auroras. This fascinating event took place every 5 years. This would be everyone's first time in centuries to experience the lights and peace, since the power that the former king and tyrant had over the land was vanquished. And once it started, the lights would be carried throughout the land. Everywhere Flash patrolled, he saw flyers that had some form of representing the Auroras. Not only would the ponies of the Crystal Empire attend the event, but so would their neighboring kingdoms. Flash had a feeling that if Celestia and Luna were coming, so would Twilight and her friends. The night before the event, Princess Cadance assigned Flash to be one of the guards to wait outside the Empire for the guests' arrival. He didn't know why, but he didn't like the way Cadance kept looking at him, and was relieved when she dismissed his unit. Flash's feeling of uneasiness didn't improve by the next day. Not only did Cadance have a smug look, but when the guests of the kingdom arrived, he was stationed outside to help build the bonfire for the night's celebration. Shining Armor was staring questionably at his wife, but she paid him no attention whatsoever and was quick to put Flash to work. Next to a clearing of snow, several logs were being levitated by none other than Princess Twilight. From the looks of things, the bonfire was halfway done. So why was he stationed outside? Flash Century sighed. Maybe it was to see how everything was going. Flying up to the top of the wooden platform, he instructed one of the guards to see if the space they were working on was enough for everything to come tumbling down without harming anyone. The bonfire was where the citizens of the Empire and guests would be dancing. When the one pile was complete, Flash was lowering himself down when he felt a set of eyes watching him. Poking his head out from behind the logs, he looked for the one he suspected. But Twilight was talking with her friends. Flash looked behind him and saw something that shook him to his very core. Shining Armor was looking up at him. Flash gave his prince a shaky smile. Shining's eyes narrowed as they followed the guard that landed and kicked the snowy ground with his hoof. Things didn't improve for Flash in the following hours. Everywhere he went, he spotted Princess Twilight. To top it off, Princess Cadance still had that look she was giving him. Not wanting to face his prince another time, he purposely started to avoid everywhere and everyone, knowing that it was only a matter of time before the celebration would begin. Locking himself away in his living quarters, he spent the rest of the afternoon polishing his armor as slowly as possible. Finally, hoofsteps were heard outside his room. Putting his armor back on along with a heavy winter cloak, he stepped outside and followed the rest of the guards and took his place near the front of the line. The night sky was as expected, clear, and the temperature was dropping. Impressively, the crowd came prepared for the weather. All around them, the citizens of the Empire and guests wore heavy winter clothes. As part of the guard, Flash had to patrol the festivity and look for any signs of the cold becoming too much for outsiders to handle. Luckily, a cart selling extra layers of warmth was stationed not too far from the bonfire. Along with that, hot foods and magically enhanced beverages were a common thing to be sold around this time. When he or someone else found a guest showing signs of discomfort, they would help guide them to where they needed to go. Sniffing, Flash continued his duties on watch. In order for the celebration to go on without any accidents, he and the rest of the guard had to be focused, observant. Nothing must distract them from crash. This time, both bodies hit the ground. Flash stood up and straightened his helmet. Sorry about that, he said. Are you all... Princess! Rubbing her head, Twilight sat up. Her expression was kind, but her entire body was shaking. Unlike everyone else, she was wearing nothing but a light cloak. No, she said through chattered teeth. I wasn't looking. But before she could finish, Flash helped her up and took her hoof. Twilight was guided down the snow-covered ground toward a nearby cart. One vanilla magma, please, Flash said, setting down a few bits. A couple seconds later, Flash held out a warm foam cup. Twilight took the steaming cup and began to drink. Not only could she taste the sweet flavor, but the overwhelming cold she felt was decreasing with every gulp. Thank you, Twilight said, wiping the foam away from her upper lip. That did the trick. Why don't you have anything heavier on? Questioned Flash, feeling better now that the princess's shaking had stopped. Didn't you pack anything with you before coming here? I could have sworn that I did, said Twilight, thinking back. But when I looked, nothing was there. Princess Cadence gave me this at the last minute. I was going to buy a cloak from the cart by the bonfire, but then I sort of ran into you. Her cheeks began to grow faintly pink as she placed the empty cup to her lips again. I see, said Flash thoughtfully. He knew that Princess Cadence meant well by lending Twilight something to wear, but what she had on wasn't going to be enough. And the effects of those vanilla magmas don't last for too long. Wait here, said Flash as he disappeared into the crowd. He came back minutes later, handing Twilight a long blanket. Sorry, he said, blushing a little. Surprisingly, they were out of cloaks. It's okay, said Twilight, taking the blanket. Could you help me? Oh, of course. With Twilight holding one end, Flash wrapped the rest around her. With her horn glowing, Twilight tied a knot to her shoulder. How does it look? She asked. As long as you can move in it and stay warm, I doubt that even matters. Twilight moved her legs with ease and stretched her wings. She took a couple steps forward and back. Good, said Flash with a grin. And it is pretty warm, Twilight said. Before Flash could return to his patrolling duties, the crowd let out a gasp of delight. The two looked up the street. In the distance, they could see flashes of multicolored light. Suddenly, the crystals of the Empire lit up. Even the ground at their hooves began to glow. This time, it was Twilight's turn to take the guard's hoof. Come on, Flash, Twilight said excitedly. They galloped up to the large pile of wood as the crowd in front of them thickened. They made their way to the front and waited. All around them, the crystals emitted colors of red, yellow, green, blue, pink, and violet. It was like watching a light show. As one color disappeared, another would take its place. Finally, with one last bright flash of each color, the light from within the crystals shot into the sky, painting the night with rainbow colors. The herd watched in awe as the lights remained in the sky, moving back and forth like the waves of the ocean. The bonfire lit, cueing the music to start. Most of the crowd moved up and began dancing. Flash Centry looked at Twilight and motioned her to join in. Twilight looked up at him. There was no smile, only a curious expression the stallion wore. It was then that Twilight saw something she had missed. Her own gleeful look dissipated. She felt foolish and embarrassed. What's wrong? Asked Flash. Does Her Highness need another warm drink? No, said Twilight with a weak smile. And you can call me Twilight. Very well. Princess Twilight, is there anything else I can do? It's strange, Twilight said, looking back up at him. You remind me so much of somebody else I know, and yet... Flash saw that the new princess was ashamed of herself and lifted her chin up. "How about we start over?" he said, grinning down at her. He backed away and cleared his throat before approaching the young alicorn, with his head held high. "It is good to finally meet you again, Your Highness. My name is Flash Centry." Twilight let out a little giggle before straightening herself up and faced the stallion. "Hello, Flash. My name is Twilight Sparkle." As the two joined in with the rest of the celebration, Cadence smiled to herself. Shining Armor looked at her, then to his sister in the cloaked Pegasus. "Mind filling me in?" he asked. "It's nothing of importance, dear," said Cadence sweetly. "Just the beginning of something new."